Have you ever wondered what separates the people who are always just reacting to things versus those who seem to be 5 steps ahead? The ones who navigate challenges like it's nothing. Well, it's not about being smarter or luckier. It's about learning how to think strategically. And that's exactly what we're going to break down right here, right now.
So, here's a question for you. Are you playing checkers with your life? Just making one move at a time, reacting to whatever comes your way? Or are you playing chess, thinking 3, 4, 5 steps ahead, seeing the entire board, and actually setting yourself up for the win?
And here's the best part, honestly. This is not some superpower you have to be born with. Not at all. It is a skill, something you can build day by day. It's all about actively rewiring your brain, shifting from those gut knee-jerk reactions to a much more calm, deliberate, and powerful way of thinking. All right, so what's the biggest thing holding us back? Well, believe it or not, it's our own brain. See, it's naturally wired to be kind of lazy. Its whole goal is to conserve energy, so it just loves running on autopilot. And look, that's great for your morning coffee routine, but it is a complete disaster when you're staring down a major life decision.
And there's a really good reason our brain does this. I mean, think about it. This thing is an absolute energy hog. It burns through a whopping 20% of your body's total calories. So to save fuel, it creates all these mental shortcuts. The best way to picture it is like a well-worn path on your daily commute. Super efficient, right? But it also keeps you from ever discovering new, maybe even better routes when you really, really need them.
Okay, so these shortcuts, they lead to something called cognitive biases. And really, that's just a fancy term for predictable glitches in our thinking. You can almost think of them as little white lies your brain tells you just to save a bit of energy. And that's what keeps you stuck on autopilot when you really ought to be grabbing the steering wheel. So let's take a classic one, confirmation bias. We've all done this. It's that tendency our brain has to only look for information that proves what we already believe. And yeah, it feels great to be right, but it's a trap. It puts us in this mental echo chamber, totally filtering out any evidence that might challenge us or, lead to an even better solution. And here's another trap we fall into all the time. Anchoring bias. Okay, so the very first piece of information you get, say the initial asking price for a car, or the first salary number in a job offer, that number becomes an anchor. And it totally skews every decision you make after that, even if that first number was basically just pulled out of thin air. So the big question is, how do we fight back against all these biases? Well, we need a solid foundation. And that brings us to what I like to call the 4 pillars of strategic thinking. Think of it as a framework for building a whole new, much more powerful way of approaching, well, everything. All right, pillar number 1 is systems thinking. That's all about seeing the whole forest, not just 1 or 2 trees. Next up, you've got temporal thinking. That's playing the long game. Think Warren Buffett. Pillar 3 is probabilistic thinking. This means you stop seeing things as just black and white, and you start weighing the odds, kind of like Jeff Bezos did when he bet big on e-commerce. And finally, you have leverage thinking. This one's all about finding that one small input that's going to create the biggest possible result. Okay, so those pillars, that's the what of strategic thinking. That's the foundation. Now let's get to the fun part, the how. Let's talk about some really powerful tools you can drop right into your mental toolkit starting today. Most of the time, we think by analogy. We ask ourselves, what does this remind me of? And then we just copy a solution that worked before. And look, it's efficient, but it's also really limiting. First principles thinking, that's something else entirely. It's about breaking a problem all the way down to its most basic fundamental truths, and then building a solution up from scratch. That is where real innovation comes from. I mean, just look at Elon Musk. He didn't just try to make the rockets we already had a little bit cheaper. No way. He went all the way back to first principles. He asked, what are rockets actually made of? And what he found out was that the raw materials cost just a tiny fraction of the final price. All the rest, it was just convention. It was how we've always done it. And that single shift in thinking is what led to reusable rockets, a total game changer that was literally invisible to everybody else in the industry. All right, here's another awesome tool for your toolkit. It's called the pre-mortem. It's kind of the opposite of a post-mortem. Instead of figuring out what went wrong after the fact, you imagine everything that could go wrong before you even start. It's a fantastic way to stress test your plans and find those hidden weak spots before you've committed anything. And the process itself is super simple, but so effective. Okay, step 1. Imagine it's a year from now, and your big plan has just failed spectacularly. I mean, it's a total disaster. Step 2. Work backward and brainstorm every single reason why it failed. What went wrong? And then step 3, you take that list of failures and you use it to make your original plan stronger from the very beginning. You're basically fixing problems before they even happen. Okay, so let's recap. We've talked about the problem, our brain on autopilot. We've laid the foundation with the 4 pillars, and we've just equipped your new mental toolkit. Now it's time to put it all together and figure out how to make your next strategic move. So your path to becoming a true strategic thinker really boils down to 3 key things, and it starts right now. First, just start noticing your own mental autopilot. Actively question those biases. Second, start building your thinking on top of those 4 pillars. And finally, actually use the powerful tools we talked about, like first principles and premortems, to come up with solutions that are genuinely new and innovative. Look, this isn't just some abstract theory. This is a real, practical shift in how you can see and interact with the world. So I'm going to leave you with a question to chew on. What's one problem in your life right now? It could be big, it could be small, in your career, whatever, that you can completely take apart and try to rebuild from its fundamental truths. Seriously, think about it. Your next big breakthrough might be waiting right there.